A new TV series is sparking a renewed fascination with one of the most iconic style figures of the 1990s. The FX series Love Story, John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette, is introducing a new generation to the timeless fashion of Carolyn Bessette Kennedy and her relationship with JFK Jr. Fashion expert Dawn Del Russo of livetheglamour.com, that's glamour with an O-U-R, livetheglamour.com, is here to talk about it. Good morning to you, Dawn.
Good morning, Ken. How are you?
It's the British way of spelling it, because it comes from the French, so that we spell
Exactly.
it that way. As my friend from Canada, who's French speaking from
Mm.
birth, Michel, he says to me, "That's the way it's supposed to be spelled. You guys ripped off the language." That's technically he's
Okay,
right.
I like it.
So we're talking about Carolyn Bessette Kennedy. And by the way, a lot of people don't realize JFK Jr. when he took off with that plane with Carolyn Bessette Kennedy. That plane took off from West Essex Airport in
Yes.
Fairfield.
Yeah.
So that was, part of North Jersey. That's where he took off and sadly never returned. He crashed outside
Yeah.
or off of Martha's Vineyard. But I do you think that kind of added to the mystique and everything with the Kennedy family and whatnot, and how their style resonated so strongly with people?
I do, absolutely. I think, it's so funny because I'm watching the series and I'm saying, I wonder if all of this would have still carried over this many years later, had that not happened. It's going to be a question that lasts forever. I mean, you don't even know if how their relationship would have lasted. But yeah, I mean, that signature, he had such a signature style and she did, like the two of them were like iconic at the time. And now we're watching a series and it's all coming back. And 90s style revival was here before this series even came out. A lot of younger kids thought it was a new cool style. Meanwhile, everyone from the 90s is like, oh, we've seen it, we've been there, we've done that. Her style, Carolyn's style, is just it's more because it was a minimalist. She worked for Calvin Klein, so I think
Mhm.
that played a really, really big role in her being such a style icon. I mean, working for him and being in those offices in the 90s, you had to have some sense of style. You had to have, your own taste in things. And I think the Calvin Klein style, if anyone knows it from the 90s, like Kate Moss was like iconic at the time. And when he dressed her, it was a big deal. And I think Carolyn kind of was able to take on that feel of Calvin Klein, but then incorporate her own style as well.
Now, if talking about JFK Jr., I remember in the late 90s when a gentleman, if you weren't dressed down,
Mm,
you would dress up in a suit with a tie. I remember his look was a little more like this when he
hmm.
dressed up. He didn't do the tie. It was kind of cash formal business. It was that
Yeah.
blend, and he could, because he was so handsome, he could wear sackcloth and he would still look good. Damn it! But the point is that he was able to make it okay to look professional without a tie at a time when, no, if you were going to be at a meeting in the city, you had that. He was a magazine editor. A lot of people forget he started a magazine. Um, and she also, as you mentioned, was known for her clean lines and neutral palettes. If somebody wants to recreate Carolyn's aesthetic without feeling too plain, what's the way to do that?
Yeah, what you said about Don is so true, and it's funny because now no one would realize that like wearing a baseball cap with a suit, they'd think like, "What's the big
Mhm.
deal?" But when he was doing that then and riding around the city on a bike, it was like, "What is this guy doing?" Gorgeous looking man, so handsome, and he has this really signature style of his own, which men at the time that time, if anyone knows, that wasn't a thing. Like
Mhm.
you didn't do that. You weren't dressing, you were kind of in this conformed style and he was out of that, so they complement each other. Her look, it's funny because you would think in a way it would be simple, like minimalist neutrals, simple palettes, white button down, a pencil skirt. Yes, like that is where you can start, but I think it's in the details. I think she really knew her body shape. She really knew how to work with her hair color. She's a blonde, and she complemented that with the colors that she wore. I think shoes were a big deal for her. She would wear very simple understated shoes, but like a kitten heel or a sandal that somewhat pulled the look together. It didn't stand out too much, but it made the whole look work for her. She would do these like brown corduroy pants. There's a couple looks: black pants, black simple slip dresses, a lot of things that you would think I can just go into the store and get, but the whole point is to have it tailored and make sure it fits you really well, is what she did so specifically, is that her looks really fit. And that ties back into, I think, working for Calvin Klein, because that mattered so much. I mean, working for a company like that, you paid attention to those type of things, and you knew what celebrities were pulling and what they were wearing for red carpets working with him. And she was a big part of that. So I think that's what really elevated her style. Because if you look at her style before she worked there, before she was with JFK Jr., it was a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more hobo style, flowy. So she really made this transition from a more casual New York City girl to this really elevated, stepped up look.
And yeah, outerwear is a big thing too, right? So that was a
Very
major
big.
role in her wardrobe. Tailored coats, as you mentioned, blazers, trenches, and that was such a defining element. People can do that though, right? You're able to do that, but you have to be able to pull it off with confidence. I find that if people dress and walk, or I should say, if they walk and act confident in what they're wearing, they could pull it off. If they look demure
Completely.
and uncomfortable, they can't. Am I wrong?
Oh, that's such a good point. It really is what how you feel in your clothing. Because I've seen people wear, she had like a leopard coat on at one point, and you would say, "Whoa, that's a big statement piece and a little bit out of the minimalist look." But because she had confidence and could hold it really well, it worked for her. Someone else could put that leopard coat on, and it is a big no. So I think that how you wear something, how you feel in it really does matter. And that's a point that I make to a lot of people, is that don't put something on that's just a trend that doesn't feel comfortable, that you don't feel good in. Make sure that you wear something and you put it on
Yeah,
and you love it. So if it's just not your style,
absolutely.
don't do it. Don't wear it.
Which is why I didn't wear the pencil skirt today. I didn't for that reason. Fashion expert Dawn Del Russo of livetheglamour.com. As always, thank you for coming on this morning. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Ken. See you next week.